very close. Just in the last few seconds, I've been told that the players' representatives and his lawyers are also now involved in the talks, and that would suggest that a deal is really close. Of course, the background is Sterling was told 2 weeks ago instead of moving to Saudi Arabia, he wanted to stay in the Premier League, and Arsenal have come to try and get him. And he said, look, I would prefer a permanent move, but this is Arsenal. This is working with Mikel Arteta. This is going, with all due respect to Chelsea, to a club who are challenging for the title, who are in the Champions League. And remember, my information now is that the deal is very close because his representatives and his lawyers are now negotiating his move away.
Arsenal begin Kenan Yildiz deal, 5-year contract talks as Arteta and Andrea Berta push for young star Arsenal are reportedly stepping up their efforts to sign highly rated young forward Kenan Yildiz, with negotiations said to be moving forward over a potential 5-year contract. The talented attacker has emerged as one of the names attracting serious attention from the North London club as Mikel Arteta and sporting director Andrea Berta continue working on the long-term development of the Arsenal squad. According to the scenario surrounding this transfer story, Arsenal have now started the process of trying to complete a deal for Yildiz, with the club looking at a long-term agreement that could keep the young player at the Emirates for the next 5 years. The player is also described as being open to the possibility of joining Arsenal, creating an important foundation for negotiations between the two sides. For Arsenal, this is not simply about signing another young player. The potential move would represent another major statement about the club's ambition to build a squad capable of competing at the highest level for many years. Arteta has repeatedly emphasised the importance of having technically gifted, intelligent and versatile players, and Yildiz fits the profile of a footballer who could become an important part of Arsenal's future. The Turkish international has developed a reputation for his technical quality, confidence on the ball and ability to operate in advanced attacking positions. His versatility is particularly attractive because he can play centrally, operate behind the striker or start from a wider position before moving into dangerous areas. That flexibility could be extremely valuable for Arteta. Arsenal's manager wants attacking players who can interchange positions, combine quickly and create opportunities in tight spaces. Yildiz's ability to carry the ball, connect with teammates and attack defenders could give Arsenal another dimension in the final third. The potential 5-year contract is also significant. If Arsenal manage to reach a final agreement, the length of the contract would demonstrate that the club sees Yildiz as a player for the present and, more importantly, for the future. Arsenal would not simply be signing him for 1 or 2 seasons. They would be investing in a footballer they believe could become one of the key figures of the next generation. Arteta's vision for Arsenal. Mikel Arteta has been central to Arsenal's transformation in recent seasons, and one of the most important aspects of his project has been the recruitment of players who can develop within his tactical system. The manager wants players who are technically strong, tactically intelligent and capable of adapting to different roles. Yildiz's profile makes him an interesting option because he has the qualities needed to operate in a possession-based system. Arsenal frequently use combinations between the winger, attacking midfielder and striker. Players are expected to rotate, create overloads and attack spaces when they become available. A player like Yildiz could potentially benefit from that structure. Rather than being asked to carry the entire attacking responsibility himself, he could be surrounded by established players who give him the freedom to express his qualities. This could be particularly important during the early stages of his Arsenal career. Young players often need time to adapt when they move to a new league, especially when the Premier League is involved. The physical intensity, speed and tactical demands can be very different from what they have experienced elsewhere. Arteta's coaching environment could provide Yildiz with the opportunity to develop gradually while competing for a place in a highly ambitious squad. Andrea Berta's role. Andrea Berta is also expected to play a major role in Arsenal's recruitment strategy. The sporting director's job is not simply to identify talented footballers, it is also about finding players who fit the club's long-term sporting and financial plans. Yildiz represents the type of young talent that can become extremely valuable if developed correctly. Arsenal would therefore be looking at several factors before completing any agreement, including the transfer fee, salary, contract structure, bonuses and potential long-term value. A 5-year agreement would give Arsenal significant control over the player's future while allowing the club to plan around his development. For Berta, the challenge would be to negotiate an agreement that works for Arsenal while convincing the player that the Emirates is the right destination for the next stage of his career. Yildiz's decision. One of the most important elements of the developing story is the player's reported willingness to consider Arsenal. For any major transfer, the player's decision is crucial. A club can reach an agreement with another club, but if the player does not want to join, the transfer can still collapse. In this case, the story suggests that Yildiz is prepared to accept the opportunity to sign for Arsenal. If that position remains unchanged during negotiations, it could significantly strengthen Arsenal's chances. The idea of joining a Premier League club competing for major trophies would naturally be attractive to a young attacking player. Arsenal have built a reputation as a club capable of challenging for the Premier League title and competing in Europe. The club's growing squad depth and ambitions could make the Emirates an appealing destination for a player looking for the next major step in his career. Why Arsenal want Yildiz? There are several reasons why Arsenal could be interested in a player of Yildiz's profile. First, there is his technical ability. He is comfortable receiving the ball under pressure and can use close control to escape difficult situations. In the Premier League, that quality can be extremely important because attacking players often have very little time to make decisions. Second, there is his versatility. Arsenal need players capable of operating in multiple attacking positions. Injuries, fixture congestion and tactical changes mean that Arteta cannot rely on a fixed starting 11 throughout an entire season. A versatile attacker can therefore become extremely valuable. Third, there is his age. Signing a young player gives Arsenal the opportunity to develop him over several years. If the player reaches his full potential, the club could have a top-level footballer entering his prime while still under a long-term contract. This is exactly the type of recruitment that can strengthen a squad for an entire generation. A potential new attacking option. Arsenal's attacking department has been one of the biggest areas of discussion around the club. The Gunners have invested heavily in improving their offensive options, but the demands of competing in multiple competitions require significant depth. A player like Yildiz could potentially provide another creative option. He could play from the left, move into central areas, operate behind a striker, or contribute as part of a rotating attacking unit. His ability to move between positions could make Arsenal more unpredictable. Imagine an Arsenal attack where the wide player moves inside, the attacking midfielder drifts wide, and the striker drops into space. Such rotations can make it difficult for defenders to decide who should be followed. Yildiz's technical profile could allow him to participate in these combinations. The 5-year contract. The reported 5-year contract is one of the most interesting aspects of the proposed transfer. A long-term agreement would protect Arsenal's investment and provide the player with stability. For Yildiz, it would represent a major commitment from Arsenal. The club would be telling him that he is not being brought in simply as a short-term option. Instead, he would be considered part of the long-term project. 5 years can be a very long time in football. A player can develop dramatically during that period. At the beginning of the contract, Yildiz could be competing for minutes and learning Arteta's system. Several seasons later, he could potentially become one of Arsenal's leading attacking players. That possibility is one reason why Arsenal would be interested in securing a long-term agreement. The Premier League challenge. Of course, joining Arsenal would not automatically guarantee success. The Premier League is one of the most demanding competitions in world football. Young players must adapt to the physicality, pace and intensity of the league. Every match presents a different tactical challenge, and the pressure surrounding a club like Arsenal can be enormous. Yildiz would therefore need patience. There would likely be matches where he performs brilliantly and others where he struggles. That is normal for a young player. What would matter most is his ability to learn, improve and respond to difficult moments. Arteta would have to manage his development carefully, giving him opportunities while ensuring that expectations remain realistic. Arsenal's long-term project, the possible pursuit of Yildiz, fits into a broader strategy at Arsenal. The club wants to build a squad that can compete for trophies consistently rather than relying on short-term solutions. That means recruitment has to consider not only what the team needs today, but also what it could need 3, 4 or 5 years from now. Yildiz fits that philosophy. He is young enough to develop and talented enough to potentially become a major player. If Arsenal can complete the deal, they could be securing a footballer who contributes immediately, while also increasing his importance over time. This is the type of signing that can have a major impact on a club's future.